Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Today we're diving right into the really high-stakes world of World Rugby Rankings. Because let me tell you, this weekend coming up, it looks like it's going to cause some, well, pretty seismic shifts. You want to understand what's going on. So our mission today really is to give you a shortcut, make you properly informed. We're going to break down all the latest permutations, all the possible outcomes, and how they could just reshuffle everything at the top of the World Rugby Rankings. We're pulling this from a great article by Jared Wright, and it's all based on the latest data straight from World Rugby itself. We'll talk about the pressure, the potential upsets, why every single point, every try matters so much right now. Look, if you're like us, you live and breathe this stuff, you want to be ahead of the curve. So make sure you subscribe for Rugby Obsession now. Seriously, it's the best way to make sure you don't miss our deep dives into the sport you love. Okay, let's get into this. It's a fascinating situation. The top of the World Rugby Rankings, it's been, well, an absolute roller coaster lately.
Really shows how competitive things are at the international level. I mean, just last round, right? We saw South Africa, the world champions. They actually gave up their #1 spot. That happened after that tough loss to Australia in the first round of the Rugby Championship. It wasn't just any loss. It really changed the picture immediately.
It did, yeah. And what's really interesting there is just how quickly, how dramatically those results ripple through the ranking system. New Zealand, they had that strong win over Argentina, and bang! They didn't just win a match, they swooped right in, took that top spot from the Springboks. So where we are right now, New Zealand's first, 92.51 points. Ireland's a very close second, 89.83. And then South Africa, just breathing down their necks in third, 89.78 points. I mean, the margins are razor thin up there.
Razor thin. It really is an understatement. It points to, well, an amazing level of competition among the top teams, doesn't it?
Definitely. It's kind of a golden era in that respect.
But think about this beyond the points. What kind of pressure does that tiny difference put on the coaches, on the players, knowing every single play could swing things?
Oh, it's immense. Almost unbearable pressure, isn't it? Every decision, every penalty you give away, every missed tackle, it's all magnified. Coaches aren't just thinking, okay, let's win. They're strategizing around bonus points, thinking about the scoring margin, maybe even trying to stop the other team getting points because they know it has that direct, immediate impact on their global rank. And that affects World Cup seeding, national pride, even funding down the line.
It's like chess, but played at full speed.
Exactly, a very high-speed chess match.
Okay, let's zero in on the specific games that are going to define things this weekend. First up, this one's got huge anticipation. Jared Wright's article called it out, talked about built-up hatred, predicted a real fire and brimstone test. It's South Africa, currently third against Australia, who are sitting at sixth. You can just feel the intensity building for this one. Now, for the Springboks, there is a path back to #1. It's clear, but it's tough. First, obviously, they have to beat Australia. That's non-negotiable. And then they need a favor from Argentina, a big one. New Zealand would have to lose and lose by more than 15 points to Los Pumas down in Buenos Aires. Can you imagine the scenes if that specific outcome happens?
Oh, yeah. And this is where let's say, the beauty, but also the complexity of the ranking system really shows itself. That more than 15 points bit, it's absolutely key. Under the World Rugby calculation, winning big and 15 points is usually that market. It often gives the winning team a kind of bonus multiplier for the margin. It can massively increase the points swapped between the teams. So for New Zealand to lose by that much, it signals a really dominant defeat. It means a big points drop for them, a bigger boost for Argentina. And that creates the ripple effect South Africa needs to potentially jump over everyone.
Right. So it's not just if you win or lose, but how. The margin is crucial.
Precisely. And the Springboks, they know this. But even if Argentina can't pull off that huge upset for them, look, a South Africa win, any win this weekend is still enough. It lifts them above Ireland into second place. So there's a guaranteed climb, at least to #2. That's a huge incentive, gives them a bit of a safety net, even if #1 is out of reach this weekend.
That's a massive incentive, a clear target for Rassie Erasmus and the team. But here's where it gets really interesting for me, and probably quite nerve-wracking if you're a Bog fan. The downside. The risk.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that vulnerability, that tightrope they're walking. Jared Wright's piece really highlights this. If the results, and crucially the margins, from round 1 happen again, meaning South Africa loses badly to Australia again, well, the Springboks could actually crash down to 6th in the rankings.
6th?
Yeah. And that's just one spot away from their lowest ever ranking, which was 7th back in 2018. Losing to a lower ranked team, especially by a big margin, costs you a lot more points. It just shows how fast things can change, how unforgiving the system can be, particularly for those top teams.
6th. That would be an absolutely incredible fall, especially after being number one just, a couple of weeks ago. You really have to wonder how that psychological pressure, knowing that potential drop exists, will affect them. Adds even more fuel to that fire and brimstone match, doesn't it? This isn't just about the championship now. It's about global standing, reputation. Okay, let's shift gears. The other massive rugby championship game. Argentina, 7th, up against the world number 1 New Zealand. Scott Robertson's All Blacks, they've looked, pretty sharp lately. Now, if New Zealand wins this one, and wins it by more than 15 points, they'll open up a really significant gap at the top, 2.99 rating points over Ireland. Now, okay, 2.99 points might not sound like a huge number on its own, but up there at the top where it's so tight, that's actually a pretty decent buffer in this kind of volatile environment.
Oh, definitely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, gaining almost 3 points when you're already number 1, that's huge. It's much harder to gain points the higher you are, right? Because you get fewer for beating teams below you, and you lose more if you slip up. So a 2.99 point buffer, that means Ireland would have a really big job on their hands to close that gap. They'd need not just a win themselves, but probably a dominant one against another top team to make up that kind of ground. It really shows you that compounding effect of those big margins.
So a big win for the All Blacks isn't just about staying ahead. It's about making it significantly harder for anyone to catch them, at least in the short term.
Exactly right. Now, flip side of that match, Argentina. They've got a lot to play for, too, even just looking at the immediate ranking. A loss of any kind for Las Pumas means they'll swap places with Scotland. They drop to 8th. But here's a really interesting point about how the rankings work. Even if Argentina pull off a miracle, a first ever win against the All Blacks in Argentina, which would be absolutely historic, massive on the field, it actually wouldn't be enough for them to climb up the rankings ladder.
Really? That seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
A historic win against number 1 doesn't move you up.
Yeah, it sounds odd, but it highlights something crucial and often misunderstood about the system. It's not just about winning one big game. It's about beating teams ranked significantly above you, yes, but it's also about the accumulated points difference between nations over time. Argentina, even at 7th, they're still quite a way behind that top cluster in terms of total points. So even a huge win against New Zealand, while it gives them a big points boost, it might only narrow that overall gap, not close it enough to actually overtake the team above them, which is Australia in this case. The system rewards sustained performance over time, and it penalizes losses more heavily for top teams. It makes it really hard for teams outside that top group to break in quickly, even with a shock result. It really underlines that climbing the rankings is a long game.
Okay, it just shows how incredibly dynamic this whole system is. Every match has these far-reaching consequences way beyond just the final whistle. It's not just win or lose. It's margins, who you play, and this complex domino effect across the whole ladder. Right, before we get into some of the really surprising ripple effects, how these games could impact teams not even playing, just a quick reminder. Take a second, hit that subscribe button for Rugby Obsession. Keep getting these deep dives and all the latest insights into the sport we all love. Okay, so these complex scenarios, what does it all mean for teams who have their feet up this weekend? This is where that butterfly effect in the rankings gets really fun, really unpredictable. Ireland, right? Sitting there in second place, they can actually find themselves back on top, number 1. For the first time since last November.
Absolutely. This is that ultimate intriguing butterfly effect scenario that Wright's article really focused on. For Ireland to get back to number 1 without playing, it needs a very specific, very dramatic combination of results. You need Argentina to beat New Zealand, and by more than 15 points, which, like we said, is a massive point swing itself.
Yeah.
And you need the South Africa versus Australia game to end in a draw.
A drawing, okay.
Only with those two very specific, high-impact results happening together would the points calculation work out just right for Ireland. Pushing them fractionally past both New Zealand and South Africa, it really highlights the complex, interconnected maths involved. So many moving parts.
Wow, that is a truly wild combination, a perfect storm almost. But hey, it's rugby. Anything's possible. And it's not just Ireland who could benefit from a bit of chaos. The Wallabies, 6th right now, they got a huge opportunity here too, especially after that strong win last round. Australia could climb all the way to 4th. 4th, that'd be their best spot in almost 4 years. But again, it depends on the margin. They'd need to beat South Africa by more than 15 points. They'd be directly benefiting from that potential big drop for the Springboks, plus their own significant points gained from a big win. 6th to 4th is a massive jump.
Yeah, it would be a huge shift for the Wallabies. Signal a real return to form, maybe set them up better for things like World Cup seeding down the track. And again, that 15-point margin against a higher-ranked team is the key. Maximizes their gain, maximizes South Africa's loss. That double whammy is what allows such a big leap. It just proves, again, that beating top teams and beating them well is the fastest way up that ladder. And, this brings up an important point about the global picture. We're rightly focused on these big Rugby Championship games. Obviously, they have the biggest immediate impact at the very top. But we should remember, every single international match counts towards the overall ebb and flow of the World Rugby ladder. Like this weekend, you've also got Canada ranked 25th. Playing the USA, who are 16th, and Tonga, 19th, taking on Samoa, who are 13th.
Right, yeah. For a lot of listeners, maybe those feel like background games, but they're massively important for the teams involved, right?
Absolutely crucial. They might not make the big headlines globally, like, Springboks versus Wallabies, but for teams like Canada and the USA or Tonga and Samoa, these games are vital. They can hugely impact their regional standing, give players essential experience, and critically affect future World Cup qualification pathways. Even access to higher-level competitions or funding. A win for Canada against a higher-ranked USA, that could give them a really useful points boost, help them close the gap on teams maybe like Uruguay or Spain, potentially opens doors for more competitive games, better development chances later on. It's just a reminder that every international game, no matter the rankings involved, is high stakes, real consequences for that global ladder.
It really is a global game. Every point matters, top to bottom. So let's quickly wrap up what we've covered in this deep dive. We've looked at this incredible volatility at the top of the World Rugby Rankings, how unstable it is right now, the huge stakes for teams like South Africa and New Zealand this weekend, big potential games, but also pretty dramatic potential falls.
Yeah.
And those surprising, complex scenarios that could see Ireland jump to number 1 without playing, or Australia make a massive leap up the ladder.
And that really is the beauty of the World Rugby Ranking system, isn't it? How just one weekend, maybe 2 or 3 key matches can completely redraw the map for the world's best teams. It's a testament, I think, to that mix of pure athletic skill, clever coaching strategy, and sometimes just a little bit of luck. It makes rugby just so unpredictable, so exciting to follow week in, week out. Makes you want to watch every game because anything could happen.
Absolutely. So what stands out to you listening to all this, all these permutations we've talked through? We'd genuinely love to hear your predictions for the weekend. Which scenarios do you find most exciting? Or maybe which team are you rooting for? Let us know in the comment section below. And please, one last time, don't forget to hit subscribe to Rugby Obsession. Keep diving deep into the world of rugby with us.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and I look forward to you listening to our next episode.